We've hit the quarter mark of the season. I want to dive into where the San Jose Sharks team is at.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young. I'm the caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly a part of the Locked On Network, the number one sports podcast network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be, as we're at this quarter mark, right? We're 20 games into the Sharks season. We're going to be looking at kind of see where this Sharks team ranks, how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, digging into the special teams as well, and kind of just get a nice big overview of where this team is at, as they're trying to improve on last year's team and continue to win more games that they have done this year. So let's get started by kind of just a nice general overview of where the San Jose Sharks are at. If you're watching on YouTube, it's a very slide heavy day today. And if you're listening to audio, don't worry, we've got you covered here as well. Again, making sure that, no matter how you take in the Locked On Sharks, we got you covered here. So the Sharks 20 games in, a winning record of 9-8-3. They are sixth in the division, which is, again, this time last year they were eighth in the division with a losing record. So they have 21 points so far with a 525 point percentage. So they get basically every game they get half of the points available. So they've scored 59 goals and they've allowed 65 goals with a -6 goal differential this season. So just in comparison to last year, because I do this exercise every year, the Sharks were a -21 goal differential last year, and that was still with Mackenzie Blackwood here. So the Sharks have done a much better job defensively, and we'll get into that here a little bit, of just kind of locking things down and not giving up so many goals. I think that really speaks to especially how the season started for the Sharks team, how well the team has been playing here over the last 3 to 4 weeks now, where they're just they're not getting into these 7-6 type of affairs or giving up 6 goals on a nightly basis. They've really kind of lock that down for San Jose this season. So there has been marketable improvement this year compared to what we have seen last year. Like I said, this team last year at this time was at a 400 point percentage. They were dead last. I think they had 6 wins at the same time. So you have seen improvement. And of course we know, right, the Vegas game to start the season and the Ducks game for the second game of the season, 2 games that you let the other team have, where this team could be looking in an even better position here if they hadn't squandered some of those games. So where this team, kind of how it's playing its games and how it's generating offense here, we're going to look at right now. So the shot attempts for this team. So they have taken 773 shot attempts. They've allowed 989 shot attempts with a Corsi for percentage of 43.87%. Actual shots on goal, 354, and they've allowed 468. 43.07%. So I don't, like, anybody I think who's watched the Sharks, this is a team that does get, more, they do give up more shot attempts and they give up more shots night in, night out, compared to, who their opponent, which comes at no surprise, right? Like this team is definitely a team that is more of taking advantage of your opportunities. And I think the interesting thing is that this team is actually, they're giving up less shot attempts than they were last year. Last year, they were already, they were pushing 1,100 shot attempts at this time last year. So they've basically knocked down 100 shot attempts in that same amount of time, but they're also not generating as many shot attempts as they did last year at this time. So it's just a little less high event hockey from San Jose. The same thing when it comes to the actual shots for. Last year, they were over 500 shots given up while producing 428. This year, like I said, 354 to 468. So not as high event hockey compared to what we saw from San Jose. And I think that's leading to a little bit more success for them, especially when we get to the goaltending here. As for the expected goals, expected by whom, but looking at how many goals this team has scored at 5-on-5 compared to how many they've given up, what they were projected. So this team is actually kind of punching above its weight when it comes to goals for. They have given up, so they've scored 38 5-on-5 goals while only giving up 41. So that is not a math guy, but that's a plus minus of 3. Last year at this time, it was 30 goals for while giving up 46. So they've done such a much better job this year at creating, at just being a better 5-on-5 team. Their goal for is at 55-on-5 is 48.1%, which is not bad. Like, that's not bad. Expected goals for, though, this, is a team so they've given up, they've expected to have scored basically 32. So they're scoring more than projected. I think you can point to guys like Maclin Celebrini or just magical, but the expected goals allowed at 41. So they're right around where they're expected to be when it comes to defensively and kind of the amount of goals that they've expected to give up and the amount of goals that they have actually given up. Last year, again, a market improvement there. It was like 47.5 expected goals allowed last year. And then the expected goals for was at 33, basically 34 last year. So a little bit down with the expected, but the Sharks are just scoring at a much better rate this season. So, I think kind of my biggest takeaway from this team before we kind of dig into the offensive numbers a little bit more here is this is just a much more, while last year they were producing a little bit more offensively, or at least kind of some of the driving numbers like shots and shot attempts. They've locked it down defensively much better than what they did last year. And yes, I know there's still some issues defensively, and I think there's going to still continue to be personnel issues for, probably the rest of the season, to be honest, of, who should be in the lineup, who shouldn't be in the lineup. And you're navigating Sam Dickinson going through his, as an 18-year-old going through his rookie season, and Muka Madulin's had his ups and downs, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, though, like, this team has just done a much better job of making life easier for their goalies compared to last year. And you're seeing, I think, the results of that, right? Where this team is, there's just been a handful of games this season, right? Where, realistically, it was the first Utah game, and then even like in the Calgary game, where that game just kind of felt like a trap game. But there hasn't been a lot of games where they just kind of get run out of the building, right? They've been in a lot of games. They've been, a lot of these games have gone to overtime, and that's where you have the benefit of a guy like Maclin Celebrini who can take advantage of some of those opportunities. It seems been very opportunistic, right? But you're starting to see some results, and some of the painful losses that we had last year, them learning from those lessons and turning those into wins. So baby steps, right? This team still has a long way to go for it to be what I think is like a contender and, this offensive juggernaut that we're, expecting it to be at some point. Long way to go for that, but you're seeing some of the baby steps as I think they have gotten better defensively overall, and just not as loosey-goosey as what we saw last year. So We're going to dig into the offense and defense here, kind of look at how the offense is performing, look at how the offensive line, like some of the top offensive lines and defensive pairings here for the Sharks. So we'll dig into that in just 1 second. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. That's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes getting started easy. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. There's no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. The process is fast, simple, and private. It's all handled by real doctors. And if you're prescribed, your treatment will ship straight to your door discreetly. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our promo code LockedOnNHL. So that way they know that we sent you. Rougiette. Stop making excuses. Start making moves. All right, before we continue, do of course want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly part of the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't yet, perfect time to follow along. As you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. We got plenty of great stuff coming. Of course, we'll have reactions after every Sharks game. We'll have previews for you as well on YouTube. We have interviews coming. We got one we're working on right now. Pretty big one. I'm going to say pretty big one. We're working on right now to get lined up. So plenty of great stuff. Again, follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. So offensively and defensively, this team, we've seen some growth, and we're seeing this team, take advantage of its opportunities, especially offensively, and they're scoring at a better rate, especially at 5-on-5 than what they did last year. But there's still plenty of room for improvement. We know the Sharks have dealt with a little bit of injuries here, right? Eklund's been out for a little bit. Jeff Skinner's been out for a little bit. Michael Misa's missed a bunch of time here as well. But you can kind of see where this team is headed. So offensively, this team 5-on-5, 951 minutes played so far, 35.2 expected goals for during that time. They're kind of, basically a goal for expected goals per 60 is at 2.22. So basically every 60 minutes, they would score 2.22 goals. But the actual goals for per game played at 5-on-5, which is, again, less than 60 minutes because not the entire game isn't played at 5-on-5. They're at 1.9, which is a jump up last year by almost half a goal. They were at 1.5 at this time last year. The Corsi force of the shot attempts are at 38.6. And the actual shots on goal are at 17.7. Both those are actually a slight decrease from last year, which is, again, this team just kind of playing a little bit more conservative hockey. Maclin Celebrini, of course, leads the team with goals, assists, and points. He's ridiculous. So he's ridiculous, man. The interesting, though, was the lines here. So I looked at Money Puck at which lines were kind of producing the most shot attempts, which I think, again, is usually a good indicator of offense for you. As how often are you getting shots on goal? And how often are you kind of right? If you're creating shot attempts, that means you're usually possessing the puck, which means the other team doesn't have the puck, which usually means the other team is harder for them to score. The Toffoli, Dellandrea, Gaudette, and I set the minimum of 20 minutes with forwards here of 20 minutes via Money Puck. The Toffoli, Dellandrea, Gaudette line is actually the first line when it comes to actual pure shot attempts, and it's a small sample size. They've only played 2 games together. but 61% shot attempts for them with 25 shots, 25 shot attempts giving up 16. The Graf Misa Gaudet is second most at 58.1. The Goodrow Delandre Lee Reeves, which has played 10 games, but they've barely cracked 30 minutes, which, I think speaks to how little the ice time they get. But they've been a very, effective line at 52.6%. Then we get a bunch of Eklund Wennberg lines here between Eklund, Wennberg, Khrushchev, Eklund, Wennberg, Toffoli, and Eklund, Wennberg, Skinner. All those lines are over 50%. And then kind of the first Celebrini line is at 45%, with Khrushchev, Celebrini, Smith having played 51 minutes. Then we have Toffoli, Celebrini, Smith, which has played 150 minutes, right, just a hair over 44%. So again, like we know where these lines, like who's actually producing it. It's usually the Celebrini Smith lines, but it is interesting to see kind of how these lines are kind of creating offensive chances here, and creating these shot attempts. And we're seeing, of course, Celebrini being the line that really kind of takes advantage of their shot attempts because, again, Maclin Celebrini's wizard. So, but I do like, though, seeing those Wennberg-Eklund like lines where all grouped together. That's a good sign between that pairing of Wennberg and Eklund. And then you kind of who doesn't really matter who you rotate in there, because you saw 3 different players and they're all grouped together with that Corsi 4. So that's a really good sign with that Eklund Wennberg. Do not split that combo up because they do such a good job of controlling the puck and keeping pace and doing a lot of positive things and setting up the next line to have success. I would keep those two together. Like you have Celebrini Smith as a pair, keep Eklund Wennberg as a pair too. And then, it's just kind of about finding that third guy and rotating that third guy in there. So defensively for this team. So goals allowed per game play at 5-on-5 is 2.05. Which is actually a nice improvement from last year, which was at 2.3 at this same time. Corsi allowed, so shot attempts at 49.5 and actual shots at 23.4. Corsi allowed last year was at 54, and then the shots allowed was at 26 at 20 games in. So you've seen improvements there. Orlov is leading the way when it comes to time on ice at 5-on-5. Ferraro has 48 blocks and 35 hits defensively. So, and then this team has played 951 minutes of 5-on-5 hockey, 42.3 expected goals for defensively. So you've given up a little bit more there. It's been a little bit less with the actual 5-on-5 goals. And then they're basically expected goals allowed is 2.67 every 60 minutes. So definitely improvements from last year, where the expected goals allowed per 60 was over 3 last year. So you are seeing some defensive improvements here as this team has, and this isn't just Askarov doing crazy Askarov stuff and keeping this game. This is the amount of, they're just doing a better job of limiting some of those expected goals, right? And just being a less porous defense, I think, is the best way to put it. So still a long way to go, but you are seeing marketable improvements there. As for the defensive pairs, so I set the minimum at 30 minutes. Just because, right, we have a little less guys that are kind of, get a little bit more interchangeable. Dickinson Desharnais leads the way when it comes to shot attempts. They're at 50, basically 54% while playing, in 12 games at 96 minutes. Again, we know Dickinson has been very training wheels on him and stuff. So I don't think too much of a surprise there. Klingberg Orlov is right at 50%, which I thought was a little bit surprising there, especially with kind of how that pairing has looked at times. Ferraro Mukamadula next at 48% Corsi 4. Orlov Ferraro at 47, Orlov Liljegren at 45, and then kind of goes down further and further. The worst pairing is the Ferraro Iorio group, and then the Ferraro Liljegren, which I know gets actually a fair amount of run here. So I still think they're gonna have to try to kind of figure out how to manage this, and I still I've been thinking about it, but I don't know what the best pairings are. But especially when you want to get Dickinson in there night in, night out, you want to get Mukamadulin in there, and then we'll see, with Klingberg, he's going to get a shot again, and Leddy's return. They just have too many defensemen. They really need to look to offload one and make life easier for themselves here, especially with Iorio going to be coming back from his conditioning stint in the AHL. They really need to make a decision here on who to offload, because you just have too many guys. It's just too many defensemen at this point. So it's hard to get into a rhythm when guys are shuffling partners and in and out of the lineup and stuff like that. They really need to make a decision here. So that's my biggest takeaway from the defense. They need to make a decision on who's the odd man out here. So, but overall, again, this team has seen improvements in this area defensively. I think that and the goaltending are kind of the biggest reasons why this team has been able to get more wins this year, I think. So we're going to talk about the special teams here, and then we'll finish up with the goalies and why Askarov is just a freaking freak of nature in just 1 second. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you missed the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Warriors wins with Steph Curry doing cool stuff, usually a good way to go. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 of bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's finish up here in just 1 second. But before we do that, of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. If you checked out, the one from Tuesday, you get to hear Eddie, noted Kings fan who covers the Kings, have to talk positive things about Maclin Celebrini after Celebrini's hat trick. That alone is worth it to me. But anyway, get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. So let's dig into these special teams. And it's been as we talked about the other day, right, where the power play has started out on fire and has kind of slowly gotten worse. And the penalty kill was started out ice cold and has gotten a lot better here over the past couple of weeks. So I'll start with the power play with the 18.8% success rate, which is actually an improvement from last year by 1 percentage point. They've scored 13 times while giving up 2 shorthanded goals. Last year they had 11 while giving up 1 shorthanded goal. So I guess it kind of evens itself out there a little bit. Celebrini leads the way with power play on the power play with 3 goals, 7 assists, and 10 points on the power play. They're basically creating on the power play 15.1 expected goals for in 117 minutes, which is 7.75 expected goals for every 60. Last year in 102 minutes, 10.4 expected goals, which is 6.13. So you are seeing the power play is actually more dangerous this year. And it feels like we talked about, right, where it's just it's really close to kind of clicking here. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see the power play maybe take off over the next couple weeks and have a bit of a hot streak, because they have been doing a lot of positive stuff. It's just not, they haven't been able to finish. So I have a feeling it's gonna take off here in a little bit. So as for the PK, it's at a 78.1%, which is a little bit below last year. Last year they were at 80%. But again, we talked about like how this PK started out just horribly and has really gotten better. I think a lot of that was just new players, right? New faces and new roles trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. So in 111 minutes, they're at 17.6 expected goals. While last year they were at 15.3 in 113 minutes, with a 9.51 expected goals allowed per 60. Last year was at 8.07. They've given up 14 goals, and they've scored 2 goals. I have that a little bit mixed up there. But yeah, they've scored 2 goals. We'll give it up 14, and Ferraro leads defensively with 3.28 defensive minute or PK minutes per night, with Collingraf does have the 1 goal for them. So as for the goalies, and I think this is a big reason for the Sharks improvement this year, is Yaroslav Askarov. 12 games this year, 36 goals allowed at 42.88 expected goals for, a goal saved above expected, a very nice 6.9. Nedeljkovic, 24 goals against on 23.4 goals allowed. Again, a 0.6, a negative 0.6. So right kind of, in line there. Blackwood at the same time last year, who played 12 games, the exact same amount of games. He gave up 34 goals with the expected goals against of 37.93, 3.9. So Askarov is outplaying Mackenzie Blackwood last year. And this even includes the beginning of the season where people were like, what do we do? Askarov is terrible. This is the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. Askarov is outplaying Mackenzie Blackwood, and I think is the biggest reason for the Sharks. Yes, Maclin Celebrini doing Maclin Celebrini things is pretty sweet, but the biggest reason I think for their ability to win more games this year has been Askarov, especially since end of October. Askarov has just been on a different level than what we thought he was going to be, and has really turned his season around. And he is the reason why the Sharks team is just winning more games. Right? We've seen the defense improve, taking some steps here, but Askarov is just, when you're only giving up 1 goal a night for good for 2 or 3 weeks straight, you're going to have a good chance to win games here. So I think this next 20 games is going to be big for the Sharks, as you expect Askarov to kind of come down to earth a little bit, right? He's not going to be at like a 960 save percentage every night. And how this offense continues to take some steps here, and you hopefully see both the power play continue to improve and the PK continue to improve here, and the defense continue to improve. So I think this next 20 games is going to be really big for the Sharks as they try to figure out what's sustainable and what isn't for them. There's a lot of people who early in the season, right, that kind of like the first 5 or 6 games, like fire Ryan Warsofsky, this seems worse than ever, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, be patient. Like, let's see where this team's at 10, 15 games in. You can see this team has improved. Yes, they're not generating as much offense, like some of the analytical offense that they were last year, but the defense has markedly improved. The goaltending is much better, and I think the offense is going to, and they're scoring more. I think the analytics are going to start to improve, and you're going to see that number kind of balance out here a little bit. And especially when you think about, the first 5 or 6 games where this team, was blowing leads and struggling at times. I think those numbers are going to start to improve here over the next couple weeks in this next stretch of 20 games for the Sharks when we kind of hit that halfway point. And this team should be, hopefully balance things out here a little bit. But you can see where this team's going, right? The defense has gotten a lot better. The goaltending has gotten good. It's very good at times. And they're scoring above expectations, which is okay. But when you have special players like Maclin Celebrini and Will Smith, you can expect that to continue to happen, where these players are just going to do better than expected because they're special players. And that's what makes them special players. So, but yeah, we'll be back tomorrow as the Sharks take on the Kings. I'm really looking forward to this game. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. We'll have our game preview video, about 10-minute long. That'll be up in the early afternoon, so you can get ready for the Sharks Kings. Like I said, that'll be on YouTube only. And then, we got some fun stuff coming up over the next couple weeks. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. We're closing in on 1,000 followers on TikTok, which is kind of crazy. So make sure you guys are following along there. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at my fry hole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.